Lead nurturing secrets, how to boost your conversion with virtual assistants. Hey guys, Adrienne Green with Workogenics here, and today I wanted to talk to you about lead nurturing, how we can take clients down that funnel, right? From initial exposure to the business as someone out in the world down to actually signing up to be a client. How can we nurture the lead to where they make that decision and it's a win-win for you and for that client that your business serves a need for them? How can we do that and do it as efficiently as possible? I want to specifically show you or tell you how I have used virtual assistants in businesses I've had to help with that process. So let's start by talking again. What is lead nurturing? It is having that initial exposure to someone and walking them down that lead funnel until they decide, yes, this is the business or the service or what I need in my life, and they sign up. And there are several ways that we do this and several ways that a virtual assistant can help. So the first thing when you look at lead nurturing is you need to understand your leads and your ideal client. If you want some more help with that, I've made some other videos talking about the ideal client avatar. I suggest you go back and watch those. We really need to start with understanding who is our ideal client, what are their desires, what are their needs, what are their fears, so that we can speak to them. Once we have that handled, we need to get into all the other aspects of, well, now that we know who they are, how are we speaking to them? And how are we doing this in a systematic manner so that we're working through the funnel and getting that client, that yes at the end, right? So one of the key aspects is data management, right? We are going to have data about people. We're going to be reaching out to people. We need to track it. Often we do this with a CRM, right? With a customer relationship management system, right? Where when somebody signs on for an email drip campaign, or they sign on for your free item of value, or they sign on for your weekly newsletter, or you meet them at an event, or however you meet potential future clients or referral sources, we track that they are in your world. And often, to be honest, for a solopreneur or entrepreneur, it's tough to keep track of all that. And that's where a virtual assistant can come in. So some of the things I've done personally is when meeting people at an in-person event, and I don't necessarily, or it's not my highest and best use or my top 20% to sit down and enter all the information from the business cards I got, I take photos and I just send that photo to the virtual assistant and I say, hey, put these people into our CRM. This is where you can say that I met them or the lead source or whatever you want. You add the information, but it's a whole lot faster to just take photos of the cards and send them to the virtual assistant, and the virtual assistant puts them into the database. Similarly, once they're in the database, we can use some automated emails, right, that maybe do personalize somewhat. And the virtual assistant can even send out those initial emails saying, hey, it was so nice to meet you. Let's follow up with X, Y, or Z, however your follow-up is, okay? So the virtual assistant can do a lot of that. It's basic data entry. And for most people, it's not your top 20%. So that's a great thing where you can hand off to a virtual assistant. And to be honest, as someone who's gone to hundreds of events, most entrepreneurs are just not following up on those events. They're not, because they don't have the time. A virtual assistant is a very cost-effective way to increase your output from going to events or from making that initial connection so that you continue to follow through. Not just events where people drop the follow-up. I will say there are all kinds of things where I've made connections to people. I'm probably their ideal client, and yet I never hear from them again, right? Because they don't have any kind of follow-up, any kind of system. And the first step is that data management, getting people into the CRM. And then the next step is using that data and reaching out. And that's again an area where I personally have used virtual assistants to help. So one of the key things with outreach is you do want it to be personalized to whatever that person's need is. And so a lot of businesses have many potential areas that are coming in, right? So like when I had a real estate team, we had clients who were investor clients and we had clients who were primary residence clients. And so I had different outreach for these two demographics of people. And we would have different email drip campaigns, different weekly newsletters, things like that. And personally, if I was doing it all myself, I would not have had the bandwidth to do that, to be honest. And yet, because I had virtual assistants, I did. So, one kind of personal outreach that we sent was we sent a weekly deals newsletter to our investors. And this is an example of a very effective email newsletter that we sent out every week. And I would not have been able to do that consistently if I'd done it myself. What I did is I set up a system where we had for a month, here's the content we put in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, where we kind of varied it a little bit. Like the first week of the month, we'd always do local events so that the investors could get an idea of the city's culture and what it was like. And then we would have maybe like a client testimonial, right, to start building that trust. And then we would have that week's deals. And so we would have a template though where I did not need to go find local events. I did not need to make a client testimonial. I did not need to put any of this together. I just set up, hey, here's the templates that we follow, and then a virtual assistant is the one who enacted it every week. And my only job every week was to review the draft and okay it prior to it being sent. So they probably spent a couple hours a week on it. I spent 5 minutes, and we were able to consistently reach out to clients and get good responses from that. We had a very high open rate on that newsletter, and one of the key reasons for that, as a little bit of an aside, is because we knew the ideal client. And what did our ideal investor clients want? Deals. So the chunk of content in that email was potential investment properties. Some of those were off market. Now, in terms of getting the ones that were on market, I was even able to work with a virtual assistant where they were the ones, we set up an email automated search, and then I told them, hey, here are the criteria, here what you're looking for a good investment. Like the virtual assistant was the one who actually identified those houses, those potential investments that we included in the newsletter. So I wasn't even doing that part of it. So if you ever have a limiting belief that, hey, this requires my special knowledge and I couldn't hand this off, 9 times out of 10, I swear you can proceduralize it and a virtual assistant can do it. I was even able to train somebody who'd never been in the city, who lived halfway around the world, how to identify good investment properties in this area on MLS. So it is very, very doable. So that is one of the ways that you can actually use a virtual assistant for outreach is emails, right? Newsletters, things like that. You can systemize them, proceduralize them, and have them go out, and they're going to be more consistent than if you do it yourself, and potentially higher quality, because this is the virtual assistant's primary job versus you might get distracted by other things or what things that are really your top 20%. So those are a couple ways that we're going to get clients down this funnel, right? We're going to have them in our database. We're going to reach out to them with stuff like newsletters. And then we're also going to measure and we're going to adjust. And this is, again, where a virtual assistant can help. So we always want to look at the data. Like I told you, hey, I knew this email had a really high open rate. It's because we looked at the data and we saw that. And we also could see, and this is using any kind of email campaign system, MailChimp, MailerLite, ActiveCampaign, anything like that, you can see what people click on. And I personally probably didn't have the time to review that. And yet I could make it one of the virtual assistant's responsibilities on a monthly or quarterly basis to look at what was doing well and let me know so that we could adjust, right? If a certain type of article was not popular, we could replace it with something else and test how that did. So that was something that, again, people don't have time to do on their own, but you can do when you have a virtual assistant helping you. So these are some of the things we do to get clients down that lead funnel. Another thing is social media. And again, most entrepreneurs cannot be consistent with social media on their own because it's not your top 20%. You're busy doing the work of your business and not necessarily marketing it. And so great ways a virtual assistant can help with social media is video editing, coming up with ideas for videos and actually giving you a list so you can just sit down and record it. You don't have to do that critical work of thinking about what to do, right? They can do some brainstorming and give you ideas and you can grab what resonates with you. They can also do all of the posting. Now, I do recommend combining a virtual assistant with technology here, where you're using some sort of posting system like Hootsuite, Buffer, Metricool, something like that to help. That also helps with reviewing the data. But those are some ways that you can use a virtual assistant to help you get people down that lead funnel. So lead nurturing is so important. Most clients do not sign up the first time you talk to them. And yet lead nurturing is something that's really historically tough for business owners. So if you're looking for a virtual assistant to help you with lead nurturing, to increase the number and the quality of leads that come out of your lead funnel, please reach out. All our contact information for Workergenics is below. We'd be happy to have a discovery call, see your needs, and see if we can help.